We've all been there. The anticipation building for a new release, whether it's a movie, album, or video game. The hype machine kicks in a high gear, fueling our excitement and expectations. But as the release date approaches, the buzz seems to fade, leaving us wondering what happened to all that initial fever. Take for instance the 2017 release of Justice League. Warner Bros. Had drummed up a massive amount of hype for the superhero ensemble, only for the film to underwhelm both critically and commercially. Fans were outraged, but there was a deeper story behind the failure. Warner Bros. Had meddled with the creator's vision, leaving audiences curious about what the original narrative might have been. But this phenomenon isn't limited to the film industry. It's a pattern we've seen play out toward the video games as well. Recently, we explored the psychological horror masterpiece Silent Hill, a game that arrived at the tail end of the PlayStation's lifespan. Konami took a chance on a young team and their gamble paid off handsomely. However, just months after Silent Hill's release, production on Silent Hill 2 was already underway, a game that would go down as one of the greatest horror titles ever made. Even in 2024, the remake is generating buzz due to the original's enduring popularity. But it was during this development of Silent Hill 2 that the first cracks in Team Silent began to show, with the original director leaving Konami before the game even launched. While just a hairline fracture at the time, it was a harbinger of things to come. In 2003, we witnessed the next chapter of the saga unfold. We witnessed the beginning of the end for Team Silent. Welcome back to the Retro Fans Retrospective. Today we're making our way back to psychological horror with Silent Hill 3.
Turn on your light, and they'll see you. You make a sound, and they'll hear you. If you think it's scary being lost, just wait till you're found. Silent Hill 3, rated M for mature, from Konami.
If you're just discovering this channel, you're in for a treat. We got a growing catalog of captivating retrospectives that peel back the layers of gaming's most fascinating and influential titles. From unsung gems to celebrated classics, our deep dives offer fresh perspectives that'll ignite your passion for the art form. If you enjoy an engaging retrospective that blends insightful analysis with reverence for its subject matter, mash the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss out on upcoming exploration to the brilliant minds and landmark experiences that have shaped this incredible medium. Let's dive into this. Okay, so if you've been watching my past Silent Hill videos, you know that Team Silent had some issues with Konami. It all started when the director of the first Silent Hill game, Kichiro Toyama, left the company before development on Silent Hill 2 even began, just 6 months after the first game's release. Initially, Imamura was the director for Silent Hill 2, but then Tsuboyama took over midway through development. Silent Hill 2 became a narrative masterpiece and Konami knew they had to make a sequel. But when would development for this project start? Unlike the second game, which began development 6 months after the game was released, Silent Hill 3 didn't get the same treatment. Development for Silent Hill 3 started the same month Silent Hill 2 was released. It's crazy to see how Konami was pushing their staff to work so hard on sequels. At least the gap between Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 was a few months, giving the team a bit of breathing room, but for Silent Hill 3, they got no break at all. While Silent Hill 2 is critically acclaimed today, its initial sales back in 2001 didn't reflect its success. Because of this slow start, Konami initially planned a spin-off arcade game that was a rail shooter. Masahiro Ito strongly disagreed with this idea. As development began, fans heard about the rail shooter and voiced their displeasure. To Konami's surprise, fans didn't like this direction at all. After about 11 months of development on the rail shooter, Konami scrapped the project and allowed Team Silent to continue their original story. So, to put in perspective, Silent Hill 3 started development on September 2001, and by September 2002, they had to discard the rail shooter idea. The team had wasted almost a year's worth of development and had to start from scratch. Due to some fans being upset that Silent Hill 2 was a spin-off rather than a continuation of the first game's story, Team Silent decided to make Silent Hill 3 a direct sequel to the original. They had other ideas besides the rail shooter game, but those were shelved because the development for this true sequel was under a tight deadline. With too much time wasted on Konami's plan, instead of being given more time, they had only 9 months to create Silent Hill 3, and their budget was so constrained. The development team was smaller than for Silent Hill 2, consisting of around 40 people made up of the core team from Silent Hill 2 and some newcomers. To craft the sequel in such a short time, Team Silent had to reuse assets and elements from Silent Hill 2. With Silent Hill 3's development, Kazuhide Nakazawa, previously the character animator for Silent Hill 2, the director's chair. Hiroyuki Owaku, the writer for the second game, continued to control the story. Akira Yamaoka, the composer for the series, not only returned to handle the sound department, but also took on a producer role. Notably, CGI director Takayoshi Sato did not participate in Silent Hill 3's development, as he left Konami for Electronic Arts. Silent Hill 2's director Masashi Sugiyama and former producer Akira Imamura were also not involved. This meant 3 crucial members of Team Silent were missing from the project, but this did not halt development as they were on a tight schedule.
The main character is Heather, the girl that you just saw, and she's just a girl living next to you. She's the very girl next door, yes. And one day she goes out for shopping to the shopping mall, and all of a sudden she gets trapped into a very strange world. And she doesn't know why she gets into the place, but if she is going to be absent-minded, she's going to get killed very soon. When you go out for shopping on weekends, there are many people in the shopping mall. But all of a sudden, the people disappear, and suddenly monsters start attacking her in the shopping mall.
Hey, wait, what's going on? Where is everybody? Those weird monsters?
The Silent Hill that you have seen is not really like a video game. It's it has more of human drama and more heavy, with a more heavy theme. That is surely carried on to this title as well. But as I display how the character was working a few minutes ago, just by walking or just by attacking monsters, that really gives you, that really makes you scared. And I think that's very apart from other titles. And while attacking, while you're fighting with the monsters, in addition to the fact that you're being scared, but you also have to make some intelligent move. You have to think of how you have to get away from those monsters, and that gives you another scary feeling. You will really feel as if you are in a video game, as if you really experience actually in real life.
Silent Hill 3 had the most stressful development period for Team Silent. The game was released to European markets on May 23, 2003. Within 2 months, on July 3rd, it was released in Japan, and on August 5th, it hit the American market. By the fall of 2003, Silent Hill 3 was already available on Microsoft Windows. With such a tight schedule for making a game in 9 months, let's see how the story held up.
And so on and so forth for each character. The KCET team didn't set out to invent a video game hero, but a character that would be like a person from real life, vulnerable.
I don't know what to say.
That's why they use actors to play the characters in the game. And to choose the right actor, auditions are held, just like for a movie. Here's the actress who played Heather.
Still following me? Do I have to scream for help? Dad? Oh, God. Dad, wake up. No! No! No.
This is the actress who was chosen. Actually, the heroine was named after her because her name is Heather. Heather Morris, to be precise.
Are you still following me?
Then comes the next step. The actors really play the game scenes for the motion capture, which requires considerable physical and emotional involvement.
Did you do this? You're late. But why? Why?
Of course, the actors also record the voices of the characters. Once again, every component was geared to emotional impact.
No. 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 No.
Like the music, for instance. Music, the definitive universal language of feeling.
Okay, here's a quick spoiler alert as I'm about to tell the story behind Silent Hill 3. If you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. So the main character of this game is Heather. It all starts when she's running an errand for her dad at the Central Square shopping center. While she's there, she nods off in a fast food joint and drifts into a dream about Silent Hill. In this eerie dream world, she's wandering through a creepy abandoned amusement park. Along the way, she encounters all sorts of monsters and spooky stuff. After battling through a bunch of these monsters, Heather ends up walking along the tracks of a roller coaster, only to get knocked down by the coaster itself. So after that roller coaster scare in her nightmare, Heather wakes up in the mall. She quickly calls her dad to let him know that she's heading home. But as she's about to leave, she bumps into the detective named Douglas Cartland, who was actually hired to find her. Heather freaks out thinking he's some kind of stalker and dashes into a restroom to hide. Desperate to get away, she jumps out a window only to find herself trapped on both sides. With no other choice, she starts exploring the mall, but soon realizes there are weird monsters lurking around. Luckily, she stumbles upon a handgun in a clothing store to defend herself with.
Stay back! Get the hell away from me! What the hell is this thing?
So, as Heather's navigating through the mall, she runs into this mysterious woman, Claudia Wolf. Picture this, she's barefoot, dressed in black, with flowing blonde hair. Claudia turns out to be the high priestess of the order, and she's been on the hunt for Heather for a while. She drops some cryptic lines about Heather's talents being needed and talks about leading them to paradise with bloodstained hands. Heather's left feeling all kinds of weird, and then she gets hit with a massive migraine as Claudia takes off. Of course, Heather being Heather, she's not one to let things slide, so she decides to chase after Claudia.
Hey, wait, what's going on? Where is everybody? Those weird monsters?
They've come to witness the beginning. The rebirth of paradise, despoiled by mankind.
What are you talking about?
Don't you know? Your power is needed.
How should I know?
I am Claudia.
So what?
Remember me, and your true self as well. Also, that which you must become. The one who will lead us to paradise with blood-stained hands.
Claudia, right? Did you do all this?
It was the hand of God.
I don't get it. What does she want me to remember?
So, Heather steps into this elevator, right? And as it starts descending, a radio drops from the ceiling out of nowhere. But here's the kicker. The radio starts crackling with static whenever monsters are nearby. Good to see Ultra Dishes making their way through the series. Anyway, the elevator doors open, and what does she see? Another elevator. But this one looks more ominous, like it's a portal to another reality or something. So Heather, being the brave soul she is, hops into this elevator and ends up in what's called the Otherworld. It's like a twisted nightmare version of the mall. Scary stuff for sure, but she's not one to back down, so she fights her way through the nightmare, taking down this huge worm thing called Splitworm. Once she's back in the real world, or what seems like it, she decides it's time to head home. But then who shows up? Douglas, the private investigator again. Heather's a bit suspicious at first, thinking he's in cahoots with Claudia, but it turns out he was just hired to find her. So she leaves him scratching his head and heads for the subway.
Heather,
It's you.
what just happened?
You must be one of them.
What did I do? And what do you mean by one of them?
You're in on this with that Claudia, aren't you?
Claudia? What about her? She asked me to find you, that's all.
So you are one of them.
Claudia did all that? Look, I was just hired to find you. I'm not on anybody's side. I don't know anything about this. Why don't you start by telling me what happened here? And that monster, what the hell was that?
I don't know any more than you do. All I know is that things are getting really screwy around here, and I got a weird feeling it's got something to do with me. Maybe you're just an innocent bystander, but I can't feel sorry for you because you dragged me into this. You know, if you hadn't found me...
What are you talking about? What's so special about you anyway?
If I knew that, I wouldn't be so confused, would I? But I know there's something. Something I've been running from and forgot for a long time. How did I remember that?
What's wrong?
Nothing.
Where are you going?
I'm taking the subway home.
What should I do?
Hell if I know.
So Heather heads down to the subway, and guess what? It's just as deserted as the mall, except for the occasional monster lurking around. She even has this heart-stopping moment when she gets pushed off the platform and barely dodges getting run over by a subway car. Anyway, she hops on the subway and makes her way to the underpass, right? Then she's navigating through these sewer-like tunnels, fighting off monsters left and right, until she comes across this construction site. Heather uses it to get to another building called the Hilltop Center, climbing through an open window. Once she's inside Hilltop Center, guess what happens? She gets thrown back into the nightmare realm once again. So Heather runs into this guy named Vincent Smith, who turns out to be a priest of the order too. But get this, he's got some pretty different ideas about where the cult should be heading. After a quick chat, Heather's like, nah, something's off about this dude, and she ditches him. As she's making her way towards the exit, she runs into this monster called the Glutton, just chilling there blocking her path. But Heather's not one to back down, right? So she starts finding the scattered pages of a fairy tale, and they got this weird phrase on them: tu fui ego eris. And guess what? When she puts it all together, the monster disappears. After finally dealing with that beast, Heather's finally brought back to the normal world and makes her escape from the Hilltop Center.
Tu fui ego eris. Weird writing. What was that?
So Heather finally makes it back home to the Daisied Villa apartments, only to find her worst nightmare. Her dad, Harry Mason, has been brutally offed, slumped in his chair. It's heart-wrenching. Heather just devastated, can't even find the words. She collapses on her dad's lap, sobbing her heart out. But once she pulls herself together, she follows this blood trail to the rooftop, where she comes face to face with Claudia. And boy, is Claudia chilling. She reveals she ordered the hit on Harry because he messed up the cult's plans way back, like 17 years ago. And get this, Claudia's twisted logic is that killing Harry would fill Heather's heart with hatred. But here's the kicker, Claudia didn't do the deed herself. Oh no. She had this monster called the Missionary do it for her. Then she drops this bombshell on Heather saying she'll be waiting for her in Silent Hill as she departs.
Did you do this?
You're late.
But why? Why?
Revenge for 17 years ago, for one thing. If not for him, our dream would have come true. And then he took you away from us.
I'll get you for this!
There is another reason. To fill your heart with hatred. It must be this way. One day you'll understand why.
No, I'll never understand!
You must try to remember me, and your true self as well. You will birth a god, and build an eternal paradise. He's the one who killed your father. I merely gave the order. So, what will you do? I'll be waiting where all begins. In the town of Silent Hill.
So after Heather takes down that missionary, she finds Douglas waiting for her back at the apartment. Together they move Harry's body into his room, covering him with a sheet and lilies, a final farewell. Heather's all fired up now, ready to track down Claudia and get her revenge on what she did to her dad. But Douglas, being the voice of reason, tries to talk her out of it. He knows revenge isn't the answer, but Heather's determined. In the end, Douglas offers to drive her to Silent Hill, and even though she's not too keen on the idea, she reluctantly agrees. Before they head off, Douglas hands her a map, a gift from Vincent, and tells her to look for a guy named Leonard Wolf. Oh, and he gives her this notebook from her dad, which turns out to be the big revelation about Heather's past. If you don't already know who she is, here's what the answer is given.
I just met some guy named Vincent.
Vincent?
He's a friend of yours, right?
I'm not sure.
He said when we get to Silent Hill to look for a guy named Leonard. And he gave me this map. What do you want to do?
We can't trust him, but we've got no other choice.
Here, take this too.
What's this?
Your father was holding it. Started raining. Are you sleeping?
I'm awake.
You cold? What's the deal with Silent Hill anyway? It used to be a nice, quiet little town. But now,
You've been there?
once, on a missing persons case. Never did find him. But I'll tell you, that's one screwed up town. My line of work, you hear a lot of nasty rumors.
I was born and raised there.
Sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
No offense taken.
Anyway, I thought you grew up in Portland. What's wrong? Feeling sick?
My head's pounding like the worst hangover ever.
Maybe you're car sick.
No. I'm just trying to remember. My childhood. Something terrible happened in Silent Hill 17 years ago. A woman named Dahlia. She tried to summon the ancient god of the town. She offered up her very own daughter.
That's crazy.
Maybe so, but it worked. The girl gave birth to a god. You see, that girl had special powers.
Powers?
Her classmates called her a witch. She could make things happen with her mind. She could kill people just by wishing for it. But in the end, that god was killed by a single person. My father, Harry Mason. I guess it wasn't much of a god if it could be killed by a human being. But I think Claudia's trying to do the same thing again. And I've been chosen as the sacrifice.
You've got some kind of power in you too?
After the god was killed, the girl reappeared. She was holding a baby in her arms. Before she died, she gave the baby to my father. He loved me just like I was his very own daughter. Even though he didn't know who or what I was. It was so sudden. I never had a chance to tell you how happy you made me.
So Heather and Douglas finally roll into Silent Hill, and let me tell you, it's like something straight out of a horror movie. Deserted streets, thick fog everywhere. They set up in this place called Jack's Inn, but soon enough they split up. Heather's on a mission to find Claudia, heading straight for Brookhaven Hospital, while Douglas goes to check out Leonard Wolf's house. Now, Heather is not exactly greeted with open arms in the hospital. Nope, she's met with these twisted nurses straight out of Nightmare Field, with some of them even having guns. And to top that, there's this patient, Stanley Coleman, who's got this seriously creepy obsession with her, leaving dolls and letters all over the place. The man Heather was sent to the hospital to look for, Leonard, is locked up. But here's where things take a wild turn. Heather makes a mind-blowing discovery about herself. She realizes she is a reincarnation of Alyssa Gillespie, who was caught up in a horrible fire back when she was just a kid. Throughout the game, she slowly starts to get her memory back.
Hello?
Claudia.
No, I'm not.
Don't lie to me, Claudia. You're always trying to run from your responsibilities. Have you come to apologize? Or maybe you still don't realize how foolish you've been. The salvation of all mankind. Ah, what a ridiculous dream.
Wait, just listen to me for a second.
I've heard enough from you already. How did you turn out this way? Where did I go wrong?
Listen to me already. I'm not Claudia.
You're not Claudia.
My name is Heather.
Heather.
Who are you?
Leonard Wolf. I'm sorry. I thought you were my daughter.
Claudia is your daughter?
Oh, so you know her, do you? Are you one of her followers?
No, never. When I find her,
I can feel the hatred.
What?
Behind your words, the anger. You plan to kill her, don't you?
I'm sorry, but she killed my father.
She's a fool, but she's still my daughter. I was going to forgive her if she changed her ways, but I see it's too late. Heather, will you help me?
Help you?
I'm locked up in here, and I must stop Claudia.
Where are you now?
I'm not sure myself, but the door is at the end of the hall on the second floor. I think I can be of help to you. I have a seal. Please.
A seal? The end of the hall on the second floor.
So Heather's back in the nightmare realm, and guess what she runs into? Leonard Wolf, Claudia's father. But here's a twist. He turned into this monstrous creature and tries to attack her. But Heather's not about to let him get the best of her. Nope. She takes him down and ends up snagging a talisman called the Seal of Metatron that Leonard had. As soon as Leonard bites the dust, the hospital goes back to normal.
Leonard's not here anymore. I guess I should head back to the motel now. I hope Douglas is okay. Huh? What's this?
So Heather heads back to Jack's Inn to meet up with Douglas, but little does she know, Claudia and Vincent are having this intense chat about the cult and Leonard's messed up behavior back at the motel. Talk about awkward timing. Looks like things are about to get even more complicated.
Why did you send her to my father?
Was that wrong?
It's your fault that he...
Oh, but surely it's a good thing. It means he was one of God's beloved, no?
Those who mock God will never receive salvation. You'll go to hell, Vincent. You'll never feel the joy of God's everlasting paradise.
And you think God is going to save you? Ha!
What do you know anyway?
I know about the pleasures of this world. And I want to find my happiness while I'm still here. You hated your father, didn't you? I saw the way he hit you, and kicked you, and made you cry. The memory of his cruelty is forever burned into my mind.
Yes, and that's why we need God.
What you call faith is nothing more than a child crying out for love. That's why you're all alone.
You don't understand. None of you do.
So when Heather gets back to Jack's Inn, guess who's waiting for her? Vincent. But Claudia's already split. Heather's all eager to find out where Douglas is, and Vincent drops this cryptic message. The church is on the other side of the lake. But here's where things get interesting. Vincent spills the beans that Claudia's holed up in the church, and that Heather's gotta go through Lakeside Amusement Park to get there. Heather's not exactly thrilled about it, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So she follows Vincent's advice and heads for the park. But as soon as she gets there, she's thrown back into the nightmare realm again. She makes her way to the roller coaster, just like the beginning of the game. But Heather's not one to be caught off guard twice. With her newfound knowledge, she manages to dodge the roller coaster of death just in the nick of time. So, in another corner of the park, Claudia and Douglas are having this heated argument. Douglas feels totally betrayed by Claudia, accusing her of saying that Heather was kidnapped and brainwashed when he thinks she's actually living her best life. Claudia's got this whole spiel about needing Heather back in the cult because they're trying to bring about this new paradise, but Douglas ain't buying it. He argues that a world without any challenges or ups and downs isn't really paradise at all. It's just boring and pointless. She straight up tells Douglas that she feels sorry for him, but then things take a real tense turn. Douglas pulls out his pistol and points it at Claudia, and well, what happens next? the screen goes dark.
I hired you to find the girl, and you performed serviceably. What is it now?
You lied to me about Heather, lady. I don't like being used.
Lie? What lie?
That Heather was kidnapped from you.
But it's true. She was originally one of us. That man, Harry Mason, stole her away and kept her hidden from us.
Yeah, but she says she was happy.
She was brainwashed by him, deceived, because her true self had not yet awoken. She carries God within her. But when Alessa, Mother of God, truly awakens...
Yeah? What's gonna happen?
She will usher in the eternal paradise.
What kind of place is that?
A place with no pain, no hunger, no sickness, no old age. There will be no greed or war, and all will live by God's grace alone.
No this, no that, no nothing. A paradise? For castrated sheep, maybe. Sounds pretty boring.
I pity you. You still don't understand. You're going to kill me? Is it really so easy for you?
I've done it before.
Then I truly do pity you.
So Heather finally bumps into Douglas again, but here's the kicker. The poor guy's got a broken leg. It's hinted that Claudia might have had a hand in it using her psychokinetic powers. Heather promises to swing back once she sorted things out, but then Heather finds herself in this eerie part of the amusement park, the same spot where her dad was 17 years ago. And on that carousel, she comes face to face with her own doppelganger, the memory of Alessa. But this other Heather isn't exactly in tip-top shape. She's all bloodied and burnt to a crisp. And get this, she's dead on stopping this whole God-birth business no matter what. Looks like Heather's got some serious decisions to make. So, after Heather takes down her dark doppelganger, she finally makes it to the entrance of the cult's church. And who does she find waiting for her? None other than Claudia herself. Now, things get pretty intense inside that chapel. Heather lays it all out, telling Claudia that Alessa is actually okay with the world the way it is. But here's a twist. We're not sure if it's really Alessa speaking or if Heather's just playing mind games to get to Claudia. Claudia, though, she's got a strong will. She's all about this whole God thing, believing that it'll fix the suffering in the world, but Heather's having none of it. She straight up tells Claudia that suffering is just part of life, and she's not about to let Claudia hurt anyone else. And then, just when things couldn't get any more tense, Heather starts feeling this intense pain, like God's about to be born. Claudia takes off, leaving Heather to deal with whatever's coming next.
How did you get here? It was Vincent, wasn't it? He led you here. When will he cease his meddling? But it's just as well. Luring you here also serves my purposes.
Checkmate.
Not yet. is not yet at hand. The time when all will be forgiven their sins, when the paradise we have long dreamed for will arrive. After the judgment and atonement, an eternity of bliss. Oh, Alessa, the world you wanted is nearly here.
That's not what I want.
Not you. Alessa, your true self.
But I am Alessa. My little Claudia, my dear sweet sister.
Alessa, is it you? Oh, how I've missed you.
I don't need another world. It's fine the way it is.
But you said it yourself. The world must first be cleansed with fire.
But that's not what I want now.
Alessa, don't you want happiness? Have you become blind to all the hopeless suffering in the world? We all need God's salvation.
Listen, suffering is a fact of life. Either you learn how to deal with that or you go under. You can stay in your own little dream world, but you can't keep hurting other people. Besides, I'll never forgive you for hurting my father.
I wish only for the salvation of mankind. But for that to happen, the world must first be remade. And for that, we need God.
You self-righteous witch! No one asked you to help!
It's growing within you. You despise me, don't you?
You're damned right I do!
That's good.
So, as Heather's battling her new way through the church, she bumps into Vincent in the library. He's curious about the seal of Metatron that Heather's got, thinking it might just be the key to taking down Claudia once and for all. They have a conversation about the current predicament they're in, but just as they catch up to Claudia in the inner sanctum, things take a dark turn. Claudia straight up stabs Vincent from behind, catching Heather off guard. It's a pretty shocking moment to say the least, but here's where things get real tense. Claudia is all about this whole God business, thanking Heather for bringing hate into the equation. Heather's not buying it though. She calls Claudia out, saying a God fueled by hate could never create a perfect world. Claudia fires back, arguing that even in a world filled with joy can still be cruel, and that you can't truly understand compassion without knowing pain. And just when things couldn't get any worse, Vincent, still hanging low, spills the beans about the seal of Metatron, but Claudia just brushes it off, revealing that it's basically worthless. And then, in a shocking twist, she stabs Vincent right in the heart, offing him. Talk about a gut-wrenching moment.
What do I want? Well, for the two of you to die, that would be nice. Then I could relax.
When did you stop believing in God? God lives. Just look around you.
But I do believe in her. In my own way. I fear her, and I adore her. But I haven't lost my mind like you. You think that this is the work of God? Isn't this all nothing more than your own personal nightmare? Just like Alessa 17 years ago? If this really is the work of God, then I'd say she has lousy taste.
You mock God? Traitor. You will go to hell.
Not that again! Who do you think you are, claiming to know God's will?
Go home, Vincent.
Home. This church is my home. I built it with my power. The power of money that you view with such scorn. Although I admit that this atrocious scenery is all yours.
If you continue to get in my way...
Did you kill me? Well... Well... The guest of honor has arrived. Let's get this party started. Heather, go ahead and kill this crazy bitch. This demon who claims to speak for God. The time has come. You can kill her now.
You'll go to hell!
What did you do?
Nothing important.
You're not going to run? I guess this is the end.
No, the beginning. As Vincent said, the time has come. Alessa, I'm saddened that you didn't agree to this on your own. But I thank you for nurturing God with all the hate in your heart. It's time for mankind to be released from the shackles of sin which bind them.
But a God born from hatred can never create a perfect paradise.
Happy people can be so cruel. Is it so hard to believe that sympathy could be born out of pain and suffering? Why do you reject God's mercy? Why do you cling to this corrupt world? You know that only God can save us.
And save you too? Happy ending? I'd rather go to hell.
No, I don't expect to be saved. And that's fine. Alessa, my dearest. For the pain that I've caused you, I deserve no mercy. Even if it was to save mankind. It was too deep a sin. It was hubris for me to try to hasten the day of her arrival. Sacrifices were made. And those are my sins.
If you feel so guilty about it, why don't you go to hell? Heather, use the seal.
Vincent? The seal of Metatron?
Now your stupid dream is over.
Oh, that's just a piece of junk. What do you think you can do with that? Do you really think it can kill God? I'm sorry to see you fell for my father's foolishness.
What?
You're pathetic. But God loves even you. Now, Alessa, there's nowhere else to run. child, I knew I would see the coming of this day. I knew I would be a witness to it. Judgment Day. Alessa?
Shut your stinking mouth, bitch!
So, Heather's on the brink of losing it after trading some pretty heated words with Claudia, but she manages to pull herself together and does something pretty bold. She swallows this capsule of Agalafotis that she had tucked away in her pendant, and let me tell you what happens next is straight out of a nightmare. Heather starts puking up this bloody fetus the supposed god Claudia was so obsessed with, in a gross scene, but Heather's not about to let it slide. She mocks Claudia, saying looks like your god didn't make it, and tries to stomp on the thing with her boot, but Claudia is not having it. She pushes Heather aside, snatches the creature up for herself, and then in a crazy turn of events, Claudia downs the fetus herself and just falls through this hole in the ground. Talk about a dramatic exit. And of course, Heather's not about to let her get away easily. She jumps in right after her.
What are you doing?
Dad.
She is nearly here. Alessa, what have you done? What did you swallow? What is this?
Looks like God didn't make it. Stop!
God is...
Claudia!
Alessa, you cannot kill God. I will burn God. If you can't do it, Alessa, I will.
So, inside the chamber, Heather finds Claudia lying dead after giving birth to this so-called god. And let me tell you, what she discovers next is straight out of a nightmare. This grotesque beastly deity with a skeletal body and this eerie reptilian face that weirdly resembles Alyssa's own. And on top of that, it's wrapped up in this shrouded by Viatel like some twisted gift. Thanks to Claudia, this god thing has been reborn. But Heather is not about to let it wreak havoc. She takes matters into her own hands and puts an end to the creature once and for all, finally avenging her father's death. But the victory comes at a cost. Heather collapsed to the floor, overcome with grief of losing her dad. It's a heartbreaking moment seeing her mourn like that. Eventually, she gathers herself up and starts to leave. But just before she goes, she pauses and looks back where the god once lay.
Is that the end? I guess it's time to roll the credits. So, if you're all caught up on Silent Hill, you know this series loves throwing curveballs with its endings, and Silent Hill 3 is no exception. It's got 3 of them. First up, we've got the canonical ending. Heather heads back to the amusement park, but this time things are back to normal. No sign of the other world. But here's where things get weird. She starts acting all strange around Douglas, pulling out a knife and giving him a creepy vibe like she's about to do something crazy. But then, out of nowhere, she's like, nah, just kidding. Then she drops the bombshell, insisting that Douglas call her Cheryl, the name her father had gave her. And get this, she even jokes about going back to the original black hair color, but decides blondes have more fun. And the game ends with this touching image of Cheryl visiting Harry's grave. Looks like Heather finally finding her way back to her roots both figuratively and literally.
Heather, is it really over?
Not yet. You're still alive.
Heather, what, Heather?
Just a joke.
You've got terrible
I'm
taste.
sorry.
Heather, did
You don't have to call me that. I'm not hiding anymore.
You want me to use your real name? What was it again?
Cheryl. The name my father gave me.
You gonna let your hair color go back too?
I don't know. Don't you think blondes have more fun?
Now, for the possessed ending, things take a much darker turn. Picture this, Heather standing there in this eerie otherworld amusement park, and right in front of her lies Douglas, lifeless, stabbed to death. And Heather, well, she's holding a blood-soaked knife in her hand. It's a chilling scene to say the least. This whole setup seems to tie back to Chloe's prophecy about Heather leading believers to paradise with bloodstained hands, which is some serious foreshadowing. And now for the grand finale, the UFO ending. Just like its predecessors, Silent Hill 3 doesn't disappoint in the absurdity department. So once you jump through all the necessary hoops to unlock this gem, buckle up for a wild ride. Picture this, Heather strolls back home only to find her dear old dad, Harry Mason, alive and kicking, sipping tea with none other than an alien. And if that wasn't enough, lurking in the background is James Sunderland from Silent Hill 2, trying to blend into the scenery. But here's where things get really bonkers. Heather starts casually filling her dad in on all the crazy stuff she's been going through. And instead of being shot by the alien in the room, Harry's just like, well, it's time for revenge. He goes on full ninja karate chops on a wooden board held by James in a fit of fury, while Heather and the alien cheer him on. Next thing you know, the town is under attack by UFOs like something out of a cheesy 1950s sci-fi flick. And as the credits roll, you got this bizarre song playing in the background, poking fun at all the characters. It's a wacky, out of left field ending that'll leave you scratching your head in disbelief. Now this is classic Silent Hill.
I'm home, Dad. Listen, something crazy is going on.
Cheryl, you're back! What happened?
Well, it's like this. And that's about it.
Oh, my poor little Cheryl. I can't believe that. I'm going to Silent Hill, and I'm gonna bust some heads.
Oh, Dad, you're the coolest!
さあ、良い子のみんな、集まれー
Okay, so let's talk about why Silent Hill 3 is such a big deal for the franchise. As the first direct story continuation from the events of the first game, it really cements certain core concepts and themes as fundamental to the entire Silent Hill mythos. First off, the whole idea of Silent Hill as this nexus of parallel realities, the hellish otherworld, bleeding into our own, that's firmly established as a central part of the series' identity. The way Silent Hill 3 has Heather Mason navigating these warped, monstrous dimensions is a perfect follow-up to what Harry experienced. But even more importantly, Silent Hill 3 doubles down on using the town's supernatural horrors as a lens to explore profound psychological and existential themes about identity, sexuality, and what it means to become your true self. I mean, Heather's whole journey as this young woman reclaiming her autonomy from domineering cult figures and shedding her fractured personas, that's some deep primal tapping into the fears of an adolescent and feminine experience. The way the game depicts these anxieties around puberty, body violation, loss of innocence through such visceral, grotesque monster designs and imagery, it's bold, uncompromising psychological horror that sticks with you. Silent Hill 3 makes it clear the series isn't just about jump scares and gore. It's using the horror genre to wrestle with the core questions of the human identity and existence. As you got details like Heather's paralleling her dad, Harry's journey, or characters like Douglas embodying classic horror archetypes, but in complex, submersive ways. It shows Silent Hill has become this rich, self-referential mythology building its own established lore and symbolism. So in that sense, Silent Hill 3 taking the narrative baton from the first game was a pivotal moment. It solidified Silent Hill as a mature, thematically daring franchise, using supernatural horror as a Trojan horse for deep psychological and philosophical exploration of the human condition. Honestly, the series would have never been quite the same after the tonal benchmark Silent Hill 3 established for its uncompromising, transgressively personal brand of horror storytelling. The game explores profound philosophical themes centered around femininity, identity, and the human condition through its disturbing imagery and narrative. At its core, Heather's journey is an existential struggle to discover her true self and assert her independence from the predetermined paths set for her by others. She'll grapple with the factual identities and must reconcile these different parts of herself into a cohesive whole. This mirrors existentialist ideas about self-determination and creating one's authentic essence through lived experience. The game presents a visceral exploration of feminine fears and anxiety surrounding adolescent sexuality and bodily autonomy. The monster's depictions of pregnancy and birth symbolize a loss of control and violation of personal agency that can accompany womanhood. The story basically throws a topic at you in the beginning when Heather comes in contact with a pink bunny in the amusement park. I had to do some research on what Robbie Robot was supposed to symbolize. While my initial thought was trying to make its way through the rabbit hole and find out the true identity of Heather, it had a much deeper meaning. Specifically, the rabbit is likely a reference to the antiquated rabbit test for pregnancy, where a woman's urine would be injected into a rabbit. If the rabbit died, it indicated the woman was pregnant. The recurring appearances of the dead rabbit mascot Robbie throughout Silent Hill 3 and its connection to the amusement park setting to appear symbolic representations of pregnancy and feminine sexuality. Some of the key points about Robbie the rabbit's symbolic meaning is its bright pink color contrasts with the dark rusted aesthetic of Silent Hill, representing the loss of childhood innocence. The dead rabbit mascot evokes ideas of pregnancy and reproductive issues throughout the rabbit test connection. Its presence in the amusement park is setting ties to the themes of adolescence, coming of age, and confronting mature sexuality. Robbie represents an ambiguous, unsettling presence, adding to the disturbing atmosphere, much like how adolescence can be an uneasy transition. So in essence, Robbie the Rabbit encapsulates some of the core themes surrounding Heather's journey as a young woman grappling with issues of identity, sexuality, and body autonomy, and leaving childhood behind. The dead rabbit mascot is a visceral symbolic manifestation of those primal feminine anxieties and fears explored through the game's narrative and monster designs. Moving on, Heather's battle against Claudia represents rejecting dogma in favor of self-ownership over one's body and destiny. The other one represents the darker, repressed aspects of reality in the human psyche, contrast with the superficial, normal world. This duality speaks to philosophical ideas about the divided self, the public persona versus the private, true inner nature. Heather must confront and interrogate her other self. While not as overt as Silent Hill 2, the game touches on ethical questions surrounding reproductive rights, with a pro-choice stance of being represented through Heather's rejection of Claudia's dogmatic cult. The game also explores themes of revenge in a nuanced and philosophical manner, presenting it as a destructive force that corrupts and dehumanizes those consumed by it. The game draws parallels between its narrative and the structure of Elizabethan revenge tragedies, like Hamlet. Heather's quest to uncover the truth about her origins and confront those responsible mirrors the typical revenge plot of the protagonist seeking revenge for wrongdoing. However, Silent Hill 3 subverts expectations by showing how the single-minded pursuit of revenge is an endless, self-perpetuating cycle that only breeds more violence and suffering. This embodies the monstrous cult members who have dehumanized themselves through their acts of brutality in service of their warped beliefs. The infamous revenge ending serves as an overt critique of embracing a path of vengeance. To obtain this ending, the player must rack up a high body count using Heather's most gruesome attacks. The ending depicts Heather becoming a remorseless killer, slaughtering the remaining cult members in a frenzy. This shockingly visceral conclusion demonstrates how giving in fully to one's thirst for revenge inevitably leads to the loss of humanity and moral grounding. Heather becomes that which she sought to destroy, a monster consumed by violence. In the main narrative path, Heather rejects the dogmatic worldview of Claudia and the order that perpetuates a cycle of violence and retribution. Her choice to walk away from their cult represents repudiation of their twisted ideology of revenge and human sacrifice. Heather's arc is about breaking free from predetermined roles and identities thrust upon her by others. Her ultimate triumph is asserting her own independent will and morality over the cult's poisonous doctrine of vengeance. In essence, while revenge is a core driving force of Silent Hill 3's story, the game uses its visceral horror tropes fully giving in to those impulses. It shows how vengeance is a dehumanizing, self-destructive path that perpetuates a tragic cycle of violence. Heather's journey represents rejecting dogma and breaking that cycle through the courage of self-determination. Now that we understand the story, let's talk about the characters. Much like other Silent Hill games, the cast here is low with only about 4 characters. But one thing Silent Hill has always been able to do is have a small roster but still have a big impact on the game, and this one is no different. Heather Mason, the protagonist who undergoes a profound journey of self-discovery and coming of age amidst the horrific events of the game. From the outset, Heather defies traditional horror protagonist tropes by displaying remarkable resilience and composure in the face of nightmarish situations. Unlike many horror leaders who are paralyzed by fear, Heather adapts quickly to the disturbing reality she's thrust into, maintaining a level-headed pragmatism and sarcastic wit even when battling grotesque monsters. Her inner monologues reveal an almost jaded perspective, reacting to the horrors around her with morbid curiosity rather than panic. This unflappable nature makes Heather a uniquely compelling and reliable heroine who confronts the abject terrors of Silent Hill on her own terms. Heather's journey is framed by a metamorphical coming-of-age reckoning with issues of identity, independence, and rejecting dogma. As a reincarnation of Alessa Gillespie, she travels with a fractured persona, Cheryl, Alessa, and Heather, that she must reconcile into a cohesive self. Her battles against the frantic occult represent a struggle to assert her own agency and reject the predetermined path set for her by others. Heather's arc is about shedding her own innocence and become her own woman, free from control of the parental cult figures. Heather's experiences are constructed to mirror those of her father, Harry Mason's, from the first Silent Hill game. The location she traverses and even some of the boss encounters are designed to evoke Harry's journey, highlighting how Heather is metamorphically following his footsteps on her own path to adulthood. However, where Harry was a parent desperately searching for his daughter, Heather is strikingly independent, never asking for help, and shouldering the burden of the quest alone. This inverse relationship reinforces Heather's transition into self-resilience and maturity. On a symbolic level, Heather represents the fears and anxieties surrounding female adolescent sexuality and bodily autonomy. The monstrous depictions of pregnancy and birth she encounters reflect the loss of control and violation innate to the feminine experience. Her battle against the cult's dogma asserts a woman's right to self-determination over her body and identity. Heather's arc encapsulates the struggle to maintain agency and persona in the face of oppressive patriarchal forces. In summation, Heather Mason is a nuanced protagonist who transcends conventional horror character archetypes. Her unflappable spirit, symbolic embodiment of feminine anxieties, and metamorphical coming-of-age journey make her not just the emotional core of Silent Hill 3, but one of the most compelling and insightful characters in the entire franchise. Moving on to Douglas, who embodies the classic hard-boiled private detective archetype. He's a gruff, middle-aged loner who has seen the darker side of humanity through his missing persons cases. His cynical demeanor and dry wit are typical of the world-weary private eye. However, Douglas subverts some of the cliches by displaying vulnerability and even fear when confronted by the supernatural horrors of Silent Hill. His pragmatic, tough guy persona cracks as the nightmarish reality sets in. This makes him a more nuanced, humanized take on the archetype. Douglas is haunted by guilt over the past failure, his inability to save a young victim from a serial killer he was investigating. His obsession with finding closure drives him to take Claudia's job to locate Heather. His interactions with Heather represent a path to potential redemption and atonement for his past sins. Protecting her becomes Douglas' way to make amends for the life he couldn't save before. This redemptive arc adds emotional depth to his character. While an ally, Douglas serves as a fascinating foil and contrasting character to the protagonist Heather. Where she is young, resilient, and adapts quickly to Silent Hill's horrors, Douglas is visually shaken and struggles with the town's supernatural elements. Heather's sarcastic, unflappable persona is the inverse of Douglas' rough cynicism, and while she rejects the cult's dogma, Douglas is driven by his own obsessive need for closure. Their opposing personalities and motivations create an intriguing dynamic. On a symbolic level, Douglas represents the idea of an older male figure serving as a protector for Heather on her journey into womanhood and independence. His role mirrors Harry Mason's relationship to the young Heather in the first game. However, Heather's arc is about asserting her own agency apart from parental, patriarchal control. Douglas fails to be her traditional male savior, as Heather must ultimately face her final challenges alone. This further cements her transition into self-resilience and adulthood. In summary, Douglas Cartland is a multi-layered character who both adheres and defies classic archetypes. His gruff persona, redemptive journey, dynamic with Heather, and symbolic role as a failed patriarchal protector make him a rich, nuanced part of Silent Hill 3's narrative and themes surrounding femininity and coming of age. Now as for Vincent, from his very first encounter with Heather, Vincent's intentions are clearly manipulative. He feigns friendliness and concern while subtly probing for information to further the cult's goals. His casual comments about the monster reveal a detached amusement at the town's horrors. Vincent has an insider knowledge of the cult's activities using code-like language, the Order's holy ritual, when referring to their plans. However, his exact role and level of allegiance to Claudia's dogma is unclear. He seems to pursue his own self-interest in parallel with, or perhaps using, the cult's agenda. A core part of Vincent's persona is his untrustworthiness as a narrator of events. He constantly hides the truth, giving vague non-answers or feigning ignorance when questioned. Even his claim that a joke about the monsters was misunderstood rings hollow, a desperate attempt to regain Heather's trust after overstepping. Vince's ambiguous motivations and penchant for deception create an aura of mystery around his character. The player can never fully be certain if he's being truthful or how much of his odd behavior is an act. This air of unreliability adds to the slippery, untrustworthy nature. On a symbolic level, Vincent represents the archetype of a trickster figure found across the mythology and folklore. Like such characters, he's a boundary crosser who defines societal norms and conventions through deception and immorality. His attached amusement at the town's horrors and his attitude towards violence mirrors a trickster's role as an agent of chaos. Vincent seems to revel in appending Heather's perception of reality and moral certainties through his mind games. The trickster's symbolism aligns with Silent Hill 3's themes of shattered identities and the duality of the self. Vincent embodies the darker, id-driven aspects of human nature that society represses. Ultimately, Vincent remains an enigma, whose full motivations are never definitely revealed. Is he a true believer in the cult's dogma, a selfish opportunist, or something more complex and morally gray? This deliberate ambiguity is the key to Vincent's characterization. He defies being pigeonholed into a clear-cut role like hero, villain, or even anti-hero. Vincent represents the moral uncertainties and shades of gray that pervade the nightmarish world of Silent Hill. In summation, Vincent is a manipulative, unreliable, and symbolically submersive figure whose ambiguous nature is central to his impact. His trickster persona and refusal to conform to archetypes make him one of the most complex and thought-provoking characters in the Silent Hill mythos. Now for the true villain of the story, Claudia. She embodies the archetype of charismatic but dangerous cult leader. She has an almost messianic zeal in her beliefs, displaying absolute conviction that she is a prophet incanting God's will. This dogmatic fever makes her a formidable adversary for the more pragmatic Heather. Claudia's sermons showcase her ability to twist religious teaching to justify the cult's atrocities as holy acts. She has fully dehumanized her victims, referring to them as callously as monstrosities that must be expunged. This chilling detachment from ethics and human life is a hallmark of real-life cult leaders. On a symbolic level, Claudia represents the oppressive forces of dogmatic, patriarchal control that Heather is struggling against. Her fanciful cult seems to dictate Heather's role and identity based on ancient doctrines, robbing her of bodily autonomy and self-determination. Claudia's single-minded obsession with giving birth to the cult's god at all costs mirrors society's history of subjugating women's rights in the service of male-centric belief systems. Her antagonism towards Heather's journey of self-discovery embodies the violent suppression of feminine perspectives. Despite her villainous actions, Claudia has an unexpectedly sympathetic childhood backstory. She was ostracized and abused by the Frantical cult after her father's death, only being accepted once she proved her loyalty. This tragic past helps explain Claudia's unshakable dogmatism. It was the only way she was able to find purpose and belonging after enduring torment. While not excusing her crimes, this added context prevents her from being a one-dimensional crackling villain. In many ways, Claudia serves as a dark parallel and warped mirror image to the protagonist Heather. Both are strong-willed young women grappling with issues of identity, bodily autonomy, and rejecting dogma. However, where Heather fights for independence and self-acceptance, Claudia has fully subjugated her humanity to the cult's indoctrination. Her single-minded zeal is the antithesis of Heather's more nuanced personal journey. This oppositional duality makes their conflict highly personal and emotionally charged. Claudia is the embodiment of everything Heather is struggling to overcome. In summary, Claudia Wolf is a complex, multifaceted villain, a terrifying depiction of the cult leader's psychology, a symbolic representation of patriarchal oppression, and a warped mirror reflecting the game's core themes of feminine identity and rejecting dogma. Her presence makes the perfect antagonist force for Heather's journey of self-discovery. Silent Hill 3 maintains the classic survival horror gameplay that defined the early entries in the series. Players control Heather from a third-person perspective as she navigates the haunting environment, solves puzzles, and combats grotesque monsters. Combat is deliberately clunky and awkward, emphasizing evasion over direct confrontation. Ammunition is scarce, making every encounter a tense decision. Exploration is key, with players searching environments for clues, items, and puzzle solutions to progress. Backtracking is common. Puzzles range from simple switch lever puzzles to more complex riddles involving ciphers or symbolic imagery. The game employs an oppressive atmosphere of dread through dim lighting, disturbing imagery, and haunting sound design. While the core gameplay loop remains faithful to earlier Silent Hill games, Silent Hill 3 refines and improves certain aspects, like how combat is more precise and responsive compared to the tank controls of earlier titles. Animations for Heather and enemies are more fluid and detailed. Puzzles feel more integrated into the environments and narrative rather than arbitrary obstacles. Level design is more focused and coherent compared to the meandering layouts of Silent Hill 1. Now, Silent Hill 3 incentivizes multiple playthroughs. Clearing the game unlocks additional weapons, costumes for Heather, and bonus weapons with unlimited ammo. There are multiple endings based on the specific requirements met, such as the Notorious Revenge ending for killing everything. New Game Plus allows carrying over weapons and items to a fresh playthrough for more challenge. While the core survival horror gameplay remains firmly rooted in the classic style, Silent Hill 3 iterates the formula with a tighter design, smoother mechanics, and exciting unlockable content. This makes it feel like a more refined, replayable experience compared to even its most acclaimed predecessors. Okay, when Silent Hill 3 hit back in 2003, the reception was pretty positive overall, but there was definitely some contingent of fans and critics who felt like it didn't quite live up to the masterpiece that was Silent Hill 2. On one hand, reviews praised Silent Hill 3 for continuing the series' trademark atmospheric horror and psychological warping. Critics were loving the disturbing cult-focused narrative and how it explored deeper into the town's crazy mythology. The visuals and sound design were also hugely acclaimed for ramping up the dread of unsettling vibes. But on the other side, a common complaint was that gameplay-wise, it didn't really innovate much beyond the previous games. The combat and puzzles were pretty much classic survival horror stuff that fans had seen before. Some felt it was a bit too much of a retread in that sense. There was also a bit of grumbling that while the story tied in well with the first game's events, it didn't quite reach the emotional depths or nuanced character work of Silent Hill 2's tale of James and his guilt. Like, Silent Hill 3 was more in-your-face with horrors rather than the slow burn psychological stuff. So at launch, I'd say opinion was a bit divided. Those who loved the uncompromising doubling down on disturbing visuals and fleshing out the crazy cult lore, and those who felt like it was maybe too much of a familiar retread that didn't push the narrative depths far enough. Fast forward to now though, I think Silent Hill 3 has really solidified its reputation as a cult classic horror gem. The things it doubled down on, the grotesque body horror, visceral deceptions of feminine anxieties and puberty and sexuality, that stuff really aged well and is seen as bold, transgressive storytelling using the survival horror lens. Nowadays, people appreciate how uncompromising and comfortable Silent Hill 3 was in exploring these deeply personal primal themes of adolescent identity struggles. The gameplay might be classic stuff, but Silent Hill 3's tonal achievements in capturing those raw, uncomfortable truths of the feminine experience, that's held up incredibly well over time. So while it might have been a bit divisive at first, Silent Hill 3 is now rightfully hailed as a crucial entry that showed the series wasn't afraid to go to some deeply transgressive, psychologically disturbing places using horror as a vehicle for personal, intimate storytelling. It's an underrated gem that has only grown more influential and appreciated over the years. Alright, let's talk about the various ways you can play Silent Hill 3. First off, we got the original PlayStation 2 release from 2003. The pure, unaltered way to experience Silent Hill 3 in all its atmospheric, psychological horror glory. This is the version fans consider the definitive edition. The visuals, audios, everything as it was meant to be consumed by the developers. Then, a few years later in 2012, Konami decided to bundle Silent Hill 3 along with Silent Hill 2 into an HD remaster for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. In theory, updating the classics to HD resolutions on modern hardware sounded great, but did they ever botch the execution? From the get-go, Silent Hill 3 got the short end of the stick compared to Silent Hill 2 in the collection. While they at least gave players the option to original voices for 2, the HD versions of 3 force you to listen to the new, cheaply produced voice acting, which isn't the best. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The remaster is riddled with glitches and issues, missing sound effect, remixed music tracks shoehorned in at inappropriate moments, texture glitches, making the iconic fog look bright blue on PS3. There's even examples of lines being awkwardly changed in the script with no context. It's a shady, low-effort port that fans overwhelmingly suggest avoiding the HD collection entirely for Silent Hill 3. The original PS2 version, or even running an emulator, is considered a vastly superior way to play. The HD remaster was clearly a rush job by Konami, with pretty much all the care and the quality control going towards Silent Hill 2, leaving 3 as an afterthought hack job. It's baffling how little effort went into preserving such an iconic, influential horror games experience. Thankfully, we do have some better options. You can run Silent Hill 3 on PCs via unofficial ports that clean up visuals and add quality of life to improvements, or just emulate the thing on PS2 using something like PCSX2. I won't tell. But yeah, the HD collection release is a cautionary tale of how to remaster and release a beloved classic. For Silent Hill 3 in particular, it's considered an absolute travesty that butchers the original experience with its low-budget, glitchy state. The developers might as well have left it in the fog, because this port is just rotten to the core. Alright, let me be upfront with you all. This was my first time venturing into Silent Hill 3. Going in, I had certain expectations, especially since the OG CGI director Takeyoshi Sato wasn't involved this time around. So yeah, the iconic CGI aesthetic was missing, but that didn't stop me from really digging into this game. What I realized is that it seemed to mark the beginning of the end for Konami at that point. You see, the Vital Team Silent members slowly started getting pulled apart. The company's abrupt shift from a rail shooter to psychological horror again felt nothing but a time waster for the team. I get why some of them walked away. It's heartbreaking to see after they poured so much effort into the series. But even with Team Silent separation looming, I was truly impressed by how they managed to craft a genuine sequel to Silent Hill. These guys showed true talent and worked their butts off to give us an authentic experience. This story stands as a fitting finale to the original Silent Hill narrative. After this game, I find it difficult to continue the Mason stories because of how neatly it wraps things up. Now, we all know this game wasn't the end of the franchise, but it's definitely the last canonical Mason game and second to last Team Silent project. What really shocked me was how, despite most Silent Hill games being psychological horror, this one felt more like survival horror, a slight gameplay shift I'd say. Before you crucify me in the comments about how Silent Hill has always been survival horror, let me explain. What set it apart from stuff like Resident Evil and Clock Tower was that it played more on what you heard rather than what you saw. Silent Hill 3 still has creepy imagery, but it's missing that special oomph that the series is known for. The game's not terrible by any means, but if you play it after you play Silent Hill 2 or the first Silent Hill, you'll notice something's not quite there, especially in those first monster encounters. I did like the monsters in this game though. Felt more nightmarish than previous entries. While Silent Hill 1 and 2 had deeper symbolic monsters, this was more of a callback to the first game, but it didn't fully establish its own identity. One thing that really bugged me was how little of the actual Silent Hill town you explored. You spend way too much time wandering around the protagonist's home that it gets infested with Silent Hill elements. Now, it's not until you're like 75% through that you finally make it to the town itself. And even then, so much of what you see is just recycled from Silent Hill 2. I understand that Team Silent was rushing and had to reuse assets from the same engine, but this is where the game falls flattish for me. At least one of the original locations from the first game returns, but it's so short. It could have been better to explore the antique shop or the school to really put you in Alessa's shoes again. But these are just things that I probably would have preferred to see updated. All that said, Silent Hill 3 is still a fun time with great replay value, an interesting story, and solid horror elements. If you're into horror or just like the Silent Hill series in general, I say give it a whirl and see for yourself and what you think. These are just my 2 cents, but definitely give it a try. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all our latest uploads. If you have any retrospective requests or suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. This is the Retro Phantom, signing out.